Stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Amendments to the agenda. There are none at this time. Public hearings. There is none. Presentations. There is none. I was going to do that under general public. It doesn't make a difference. Okay. Under general public, we are going to start with, we have 3 students, I think. Is that correct? That are going to speak tonight?
Well, one of them hasn't shown up. So we have 2.
You have 2 for now?
Yeah.
Okay. So if one of the 2 would like to start,
Sure.
and we can do that now?
Can I introduce them?
Certainly.
Go to the
My name is Macy Kingsley, and I'm a teacher at the school, at Cascade School. And Hood River Chamber of Commerce sponsored a writing contest for our 6th through 8th grade students. And the 3 winners are here to read their essays to you. The topic of the essays was the next big thing in Cascade Locks. And so these are ideas for what could be a big deal for Cascade Locks. So 3rd place in the contest was Saul. So he's here to read his essay.
My essay was on a family fun park. Over the years, Cascade Locks has had some new improvements like our fire station and new Indian camp by Wyeth, the fix up on the Pioneer Museum, and clean up on the cemetery. In the future, Cascade Locks could construct an amusement park for family fun. Cascade Locks needs family fun-oriented activities. A family fun center would provide that. In our amusement park, we are going to have rides including roller coasters, bumper cars, and also a water park. The water park is going to have slides, and one of the slides that is the biggest and highest in the world. To be safe, we also will have lifeguards and life jackets for people that can't swim. Inside, we would also have a video game lounge where families can have fun with each other. Second, to build our amusement park, we are going to need money. First of all, we need materials, construction, and electricity for the wiring. We may have to take loans from the bank, and loans have fees, so we may have to pay those fees. When building an amusement parks, or when building a business, sometimes there will be advantages. And the advantages for this park may be earning money for the school and to get our high school back from Hood River, and to earn money for sports in the city. In our school, we lost a lot of sports when the high school left, like football, soccer, even coaches. We also like for families to spend time with their children. In the last 3 weeks, I've seen young adults roaming the streets. The Family Fun Park has the power to bring families together. As we build the park, there are also disadvantages. People may get hurt riding the rides, and that's a risk. In every ride, there will be seat belts. On the rides that go up and down, etc., will be cages so people don't fall out of the rides. At the water park, there will be lifeguards on duty and life jackets for people that can't swim. The people that prepare the food will also have food handling carts. Over the years, Cascade Locks had many improvements, but this development, I think, will be the best idea in history.
And Jade Perkins got 2nd place.
the community garden. Have you ever met someone in a retirement home? I have. My grandfather. He died last month. They are people just like us and need the same qualities, as in exercise, vitamin D, nutrients, and minerals. I think we should put a community garden by the Cascade Meadows retirement complex. The first thing we need to figure out is what land area we should use and how we are going to use it. The land area we use needs sunlight and water or the plants are going to die. I recommend a soaker system during the summer. We should have a soaker system because we would be draining our money by using sprinklers. The water would just evaporate. For the senior citizens, I would raise the soil at least 2 feet higher so they do not have to bend down as much, just in case they have hip problems. Next, we should start to amend the soil. We need to do this step to make sure the soil is fertilized and healthy. There are varieties of plants I would want to grow in the garden. For instance, I would plant lettuce, beans, broccoli, cucumbers, tomatoes, carrots, onions, and strawberries. I would want to put the strawberries in a barrel so the seniors do not have to bend down to pick them. I also want a dwarf fruit tree in the garden. A dwarf fruit tree is so it won't grow 30 feet tall. We can't take a chance putting seniors on ladders. The seniors will get many benefits from using the garden, as in flexibility and exercise. They also get fresh air and socialize while gardening. The seniors will get minerals and vitamins from growing their own produce instead of eating them from cans. In conclusion, this is why the people of Cascade Meadows should put a community garden by the retirement complex. I know it would be a lot of hard work, but it would be all worth it when it is done and over.
And with impeccable timing, Acacia Cannon got first.
Sorry. Get in the building.
Would you like to put one of your hobbies into someone's life? How does go-kart racing sound? I think that Cascade Locks is great, but to make it fabulous, it needs a go-kart track. My dad and I are obsessed with go-karts. We love building, spray painting, and racing go-karts. It is just amazing and captivating, that feeling of the wind in your face to letting your hair go wild. Building go-karts with my dad made our relationship get closer. That's why I want to have a go-kart track in Cascade Locks so that other parents will get closer in their relationship to their kids. People will want food because the main restaurants are very near that area. It can help their business, and they can help the track by making donating some money. We will hire people to help build this go-kart track. The money will come from donations from the community. One advantage is that the go-kart track will be on school property, so that the money earned from the go-kart track will go to our school to pay for supplies, repairs, special programs, science experiments, cooking programs, and more. There are disadvantages to this project. Go-kart tracks aren't perfect. People will talk about pollution and noise. There are some solutions to these things. First, there will be people that are going to clean up the track every other day. Then we will plant many trees so that the trees will suck up all the exhaust. Next, the trees will also shield the noise so that townspeople will not get disturbed. Another advantage is safety. Yes, I will admit go-karts are a wee bit dangerous. There will be seat belts, helmets, and supervisors to enforce safety. So do you think that Cascade Locks needs a go-kart track? Is it already great without one? Well, let's make it Let's make Cascade Locks fabulous.
Well, I'd like to thank you children for coming down and giving us that speech and congratulate you on your award. And here's a little something from us. Keep up the good writing.
Very good.
So with that presentation being complete, I will now open it to the general public. Anything that is on, that's not on the going on or being discussed tonight during the reports, you're welcome to speak on that right now. So if anyone from the public would like to speak on an item.
Rob Rostoff, Cascade Locks. As everybody that lives here is aware, Thursday night we had another one of our storms. And in the middle of that storm, we had a couple of groups out there that did a really good job for the city. One was our Public Works. They were up there on Ruckle Street with a broken water main in the sub-zero temperature with rain and snow blowing. And they managed to get the street blocked off so nobody would get hurt out there because it was completely iced over. And Friday morning they managed to get the break fixed and get it filled in. And my hat's off to those guys. They did a heck of a job, particularly considering they're a man short. And the other group I'd like to mention ended up out on the highway, and that's our emergency services group, fire and ambulance. There were probably somewhere around 11 or 12 calls out there. The highway was closed. It was dark. It was windy. It was snowing. And it was dangerous. And they were dealing with rollovers, semis that were banging into each other, a 7-car pileup. Want to thank them. They did an excellent job for representing our city. And in addition, there was also a letter in the paper thanking them for somebody down in Portland who they helped. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else from the public care to make a statement?
Shauna Hazel, Cascade Locks resident. Not feeling so well tonight, so this won't be quite so fiery. One thing that came up the last meeting, there were a lot of people stating that we were a poor community. And I don't feel that way. I think we're actually gifted with resources, with land to develop. We have a really unique beauty in this gorge area, and we're surrounded by numerous recreational pursuits. We are gifted with a revenue source, an income for this community that contributes to our general fund. It's called I-84 out there, long stretch of it. We own it, we got it. We provide not only fire and EMS to that, we provide it to the hiking trails. Just like the Bridge of the Gods, that's how the port generates revenue. We have a consistent revenue source right behind us. I think we need to wake up and tap into some of these potentials, just that being one. Cutting services for fire and EMS or reducing it can only decrease this revenue. And if you don't understand the insurance billing, educate yourselves rather than throwing your hands up in the air, because actually once you educate yourselves, you still will throw your hands up in the air. I'm a doctor, if you all know, and I bill routinely. Sucks. Anyway, the other thing that you could do, besides educating yourselves, is actually hold conversations with those and listen to them, those that have the expertise. Wouldn't you want to start right there? I hear a council that is being excessively critical and scrutinizing these very people that have the knowledge, the drive, and the passion to move this community upwards and forwards. These are our resources. They're young, they're vital, utilize them. We cannot hide from change, but I think we need to start looking optimistically forward because it's going to happen. We are not a poor community. And for council members to say this, I have heard our council member say this in the last meeting, that's unethical, truly unethical. You mislead the public. You're striking needless fear in this community. And when funds are all in the black, our city funds are in the black, except fire and EMS, which they'll probably be caught up by April. That's the insurance billing cycle. Welcome to it. There's no problem here. We're not a poor community. I think we need to shrug off this poverty complex, pick our heads up, and look into the future. I hear a council that is preventing our city from experiencing smart, successful growth by halting the interchange plan and effectively stopping development of the East Side Port property, potential business, revenue. I have plenty of patients that work at In Situ. They were actually looking at that port property. But alas, it's not going to be available if we don't move forward. We look towards a council to provide for security and safety and to make choices that are in the best interest of this community, to represent this community, not a select few. That's all I have to say. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Would anyone else care to speak?
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We like go-karts.
We all do. We're all kids at heart.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment from the public? Seeing none, we will continue on to discussions, declarations of potential conflicts of interest.
Is the attorney not going to be here tonight?
No, the attorney's not going to be here tonight. No conflicts of interest. We will go to consent of the agenda. Consent agenda may be approved in entirety in a single motion. Items are considered to be routine. Any council may make a motion to remove an item from the consent agenda for individual discussion. Item 1, or A, approval of minutes of the February 7th council meeting. Does anyone have any comments?
I think that I would like to have the minutes reflect the verbatim conversation that we had concerning the ambulance, the paid on call position discussion that we had. So if that's the consensus of the rest of the council.
Have a consensus vote? Yes, Lance?
I have just a question about that. Is there a particular section, or are you talking about the entire, how many pages?
Just the conversation that has to do with the paid on call position.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's a large portion of it. Yes,
5
it is.
pages.
Yeah.
It's already 5 pages. And you want it to be verbatim.
Yes.
So add pages to that.
Yes.
And nothing specific in there that
No.
I could really went to. George, just a question for Kathy then. I'm assuming you listened to that whole thing when you were typing up the minutes. So how close to verbatim was it already at 5 pages?
It's
it's probably pretty close.
So we're not talking about adding a whole nother 5 pages or 15 pages.
It might be another 3 to 5, I'm not sure. I mean, verbatim is like every single word, so.
You're right.
I don't know, I can just tell you when I'm typing the minutes, I'm listening to the recording and, you know, not just on the notes that I write.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions?
And also, well, I'd like to pull the bills separate of the minutes, because I have some conflicts with the bills. So we should just go ahead and vote on the minutes, on whether or not we want to approve them or if we want them verbatim.
Consensus of whether or not we have the minutes verbatim. Councilmember Eva? Kevin?
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with that section being word for word.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm also fine. That was a little contentious down there, so yeah, I'm good with that too.
Okay. Lance?
I think it's a waste of time to make them verbatim.
You already know that I want them verbatim, so.
Yeah, I can verbatim.
Okay. I'd like them verbatim as well, so. So now, the next thing we'll go to is ratification of the bills. And there's questions?
Yes. I am a little, with this bill for the attorney, everybody needs to know that it goes over our spending limit for the amount that we have allotted for our attorney's fees. And also, I'm not very comfortable, I did look at the attorney's bill on, for this, and there's some things on there I'm not comfortable with. There seem to be a lot of, and I wish the attorney was here to discuss it, but there seem to be a lot of conference calls with our previous administrator regarding his separation agreement, and I don't agree that the city should have to pay for those portions of that bill. And I don't know, I mean, I'm sure the check is already signed, but we need to, I don't know if we need to scrutinize that bill more and question it to the attorney or what?
Can we make a motion to approve the bills short of the attorney's payment for this cycle and go from there?
I think it's already been paid, hasn't it?
Well, I'm just talking about our approval of it, though.
Yeah.
If there's interest in looking into it further.
I have a couple questions on the bills also. Are you finished?
Yeah.
On, I'm sure they're for the 911 grant, but I'm not sure how many of them are. Like the radio grant, PMT, the $116,284.75, and then the deputy 911 tax for $8,150.
That doesn't have to do with the people.
That does not have?
I don't think so.
Nobody called me, I'm not,
What?
I didn't have a chance to look at the bills, so, is it the 911 calls?
The 911 tax, the deputy
That-
911, that's something different.
That's something totally different, that is an in and out. When money comes in, we send it to 911.
And that's the same on the radio grant?
No, the 116,000 is the communications grants.
Okay. Do you know how we stand on that? How close?
We have received our grant money from
from FEMA, and that's what these bills are covering, just what we see from the grant. We are still waiting for 2 matches from 2 regional partners. We haven't received their match money yet.
Which begs the question, are we gonna get a report on that?
Well, I don't get email here at the city, but Randy, who is the regional supervisor for Day Wireless, called me today and said that he was emailing me a schedule to show what was left to be done on that project today. I don't have email here, so I haven't been able to look at it, but a couple of weeks ago, he told me that we should be very close to getting complete on this project, so I'm thinking that in the next week that it will be completed, but I haven't actually looked at the schedule that he sent me today. So that's about all I can tell you for right now. So I'm waiting to see that schedule, so that's all I can say for that.
And then also, did we resolve the issue on the plaques yet? Has that been resolved? My concern is that we approve these, and then does that mean that the mayor has to sign, interim city administrator has to sign the check, or is it still in debate?
Talked to Mary Ann, and to make things clear for right now is, because in looking at it, there wasn't a definite line item for those things. So Mary Ann created a line item that's actually addresses plaques and presentations, I think is the way she... And awards. Anyway, so she wrote up a line item for that particular thing so that at least budgetary-wise, that people would know what it was for.
Okay.
So that's what's been done so far. So that's all I can tell you there, too. Was there any other questions about bills? So, forgive me for my inexperience here, so we're going to approve the bill, but we're going to ask the lawyer for more detail on his conference calls. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So we will do that. So with that being said,
I'll make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $442,356.27 with questioning the attorney's bill.
okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Tiffany and seconded by Dawn. All those in favor of ratification of the bills in the amount of $442,356.27. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Do you want to say why?
No.
Motion passes. Did you want to say something, Lance?
Not at this time, no.
All right.
Thank you.
So do we need a motion on the minutes?
No, we just send it back to be done verbatim.
Okay. Unfinished business. We have none. New business. Review of the interim city administrator position. At this time, I'm going to call Richard Carson and get him on the line so that he can be part of this thing, of this interview. I want to remind everyone that it is my responsibility as mayor to appoint the administrator. And later on in the evening, we will go to executive session and we will discuss this as a council. The council has sent in questions. I will proceed to do the interview and ask those questions of the candidates. So we'll do a random order and work our way through the list. So give me just a second now and I'll call the other candidates.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would just like to point out, the reason Mr. Carson wasn't able to join us tonight is because he was out of the country. I left a message for him. He just called me back this morning, so he wasn't able to change his schedule in order to be here with us on such short notice, but that's...
Hello, Richard. This is George Fisher with the City of Cascade Locks. We are going to start the interview of the candidates for the interim city administrator position. So, can you hear all right?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Okay. The first question will be to Ross.
Yes, sir.
How would you delegate the responsibilities of a city manager and a city administrator?
Let's differentiate.
Excuse me, how would you differentiate the responsibilities of a city manager and a city administrator?
I think that depends.
Richard, this was to Ross first.
So the city manager has a lot more
Richard?
day-to-day control when a city administrator.
He likes that question.
You know, it's basically different. You know, the city manager has almost complete control in terms of personnel issues, administration, but not policy. City administrator has less control, I guess.
Okay. George. 1 second, Richard. What, Lance?
I hesitate to interrupt, but I'm just curious if you could introduce the three candidates.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the record.
I'm sorry, I should have introduced you. On the phone is Richard Carson, one of the candidates.
Ross Schultz.
Ross Schultz and Joe Raybeck. Okay?
Right.
So the next question will be to Ross.
Okay.
How would you grade yourself on your people skills based on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the highest grade?
10-5. I'm sorry. I think I do well with people. I don't think you can survive in the business being a city manager or city administrator for 10 years as I have without being able to communicate both to elected officials, business people, and the staff that you work with.
Okay, thank you. Next question is for you, Joe. It's, why did you select the career of city administrator? And what do you feel are your best assets to serve our city as a city's interim administrator?
Actually, I fell into city management work 17 years ago. My education is in computer programming. I became a professional leech on the body politic in order to get medical insurance for my family and infant daughter. I discovered I was good at it. I discovered I liked it because it challenged everything I knew how to do, and I've been doing it ever since. That's basically it. As far as why Cascade Lock, I think you guys need somebody. I lived here for 16 years, still have a house here, and thought I might be able to help.
Thank you. Richard, you're next. How would you grade yourself on your people skills based on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest grade?
Probably a 9, maybe a 10. I do great with citizens, with staff, elected officials.
Okay, thank you. Ross, how would you differentiate the responsibility of the city manager and the city administrator?
Generally, city administrators are from cities that are less in population, but it all boils down to the requests and the requirements of council and the community that you serve.
Okay, thank you. Joe, how would you, no, excuse me, Joe. How would you grade yourself on your people skills based on a score from 1 to 10 being the highest?
Bad when you ask me that question, because I'll usually rate myself low. I might put myself in the middle of the scale. I'm getting better. I keep learning. I think I'm pretty good with people, but I still don't tend to rate myself very high. Maybe between a 5 and a 6.
Okay, thank you. All right. Richard.
Yeah.
Please give me your opinion as to what you would feel are some of the most important questions that should be asked of the city administrator if you were involved in interviewing for a new city administrator.
Well, I think people skills are really important, and a person's experience with dealing with not just staff, but just, with customers. That's really for me personally, that's the most important thing is customer service and, helping people. So that's what I would really, kind of drill down with the new city administrator.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ross,
Yes, sir.
if you were facing an overall budget deficit for the city of Cascade Locks, how would you address the problem? Please give a brief description on how you would solve the budget deficit and what kind of timeline would you think it would take to correct the problem?
Well, first off, I would ask Your Honor which fund that he was trying to fix in particular. Second off, I believe is what I would do is come forth to council with as much information as I could to help them make a decision on how to solve the budget deficit. I'd be pleased to put together alternatives and possible solutions, but in the end, I believe it belongs to the council to help with those decisions.
Okay, thank you. Joe, if you are in a delicate negotiation on the city's behalf, would you bend the rules to get a favorable decision for the city?
No.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
Yeah.
If you were facing an overall budget deficit for the city of Cascade Locks, how would you address the problem? Please give a brief description of how you would solve the budget deficit and what kind of timeline do you think it would take to correct the problem?
Well, quite frankly, it's what I do for a living right now. I've been a city, county, regional manager for about 30 years, but find out, you know, where to be more cost effective. That's all I can say. I mean, I've worked in San Diego, Solano, Sacramento County, Ogden, Utah, West Lynn, on just this kind of question. It takes a lot of work. You got to talk to a lot of people, find out where you can find, just, you know, be more cost efficient. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you. Ross, if you were in a delicate negotiation on the city's behalf, would you bend the rules to get a favorable decision?
No, sir.
Let's see. Joe, if you were hiring for this position, what qualities would you look for?
I tend to hit for experience first, but I would want to know how well that person gets along with other people, how well they can supervise employees, and how well they can deal with money. I think one of the best questions I ever got asked in an interview is, what's it like to work with Joe? Yeah, that, forcing somebody to answer that question makes them address a lot of issues.
Okay. Richard.
Yeah.
What motivates you and how do you motivate others?
Well, first, I'm a true believer in public service. Always have been. Just motivate others, you know, I really believe in getting staff to understand public service and customer service are the same thing.
Okay, thank you. Ross, describe a situation in which you needed to solicit the cooperation of others in order for a project to proceed, but you had no authority over the people involved. How do you go about gaining cooperation?
That's a fairly broad question. In regards to city service, I think that's the focus that you're confronted with every day when you come to work, and it requires communication, and not just at the time of the decision or the time of the project, but ongoing communication so that you build trust with the people you're working with, and you're able to help them move in the direction that you're pushing them or you're wanting to go. So I can't tell you that it's quick and easy, and probably the biggest situation that I faced in that regard was leading the city of Sherwood to put together a library and a city hall project where the mayor came into my office one day and said, "Ross, build a library," and then walked out, and that was the instruction, and we ended up with a library in City Hall that was on time, on budget, and a cornerstone for our whole town development. So,
thank you. Okay. Joe, describe a situation. No, wait, I just asked that one. Sorry. Joe, what motivates you and how do you motivate others?
What motivates me is things continuing to be interesting, and I try and do that with other people too. I've had quite a number of employees who were like these Generation X people, And giving orders doesn't really work well. They're not interested in salaries. What they want is for things to continue to be interesting, so I try to keep the job exciting for them as much as possible. I tell people, if you work for me, we're going to figure out what you're capable of, and we're going to be constantly doing new things. It's going to be interesting. You're going to learn a lot. And usually that works.
Thank you. Ross, when dealing with budget issues, how do you go about analyzing difficult issues and come to decisions?
I believe first off in the public process, which helps the budget process, and I guess the other thing is the state of Oregon's been fairly descriptive in terms of what you can and can't do in a budget situation. So getting back to ORS 294 dot whatever is where I start, and then let the process take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Richard,
Sure.
how might your former bosses and colleagues describe you?
I have a good sense of humor, and I'm a very much a team player. I like working in a place where everybody's kind of on the same page in terms of what the mission and the goals and objectives are of the city.
Okay, thank you. Joe, what can or will you do to help Cascade Locks become the most streamlined, effective city that it can be?
That's a big question. A lot depends on what resources you've got to work with. That is, I think, one of the three financial legs, so to speak, of the organization. You want, the way that you cure budget problems basically is you have to do three things. You have to look at your revenues, you have to cut your expenses, you have to become more efficient at what you do. The first thing you should be looking at is becoming more efficient at what you do.
Thank you. So, Ross,
Yes, sir.
what can or will you do to help Cascade Locks become the most streamlined, efficient city that it can be?
I believe that when you talk about streamlining and efficiency, the only way to achieve those in today's economic atmosphere is through the infusion of technology, making sure that your systems and programs and processes are taking advantage and leveraging to the best of their ability the technology available. That's always tough to do when there's so many financial constraints, but looking for grants and looking for partnerships with private enterprise and other things is how you go about funding that sort of infusion of technology.
Thank you. Richard, when dealing with budget issues, how do you go about analyzing difficult issues and come to decisions?
Well, it's just a matter of kind of working through what's in the budget, what the expenses are, what the revenues are. It's hard, it's hard to say. I would like to answer one question that was already asked, which was about creating a more streamlined, effective city. I mean, that's kind of what I do for a living right now. I mean, I work with cities, counties across at least, the western United States, and I've learned as much as I've taught about, how to save money, how to be more effective, and also in terms of budgets. I mean, I've learned a lot about what it takes to be, make a more
Okay, thank you. Joe,
Yes, sir.
how might your former bosses and colleagues describe you?
I expect that some of them would tell you that I'm a nice guy. Some of them will tell you that I communicate good. Some of them will tell you that I'm really good with money. And some of them will also tell you the same breath we couldn't stand.
Thank you. Ross, describe what you think is the most important job you will be doing for Cascade Locks as the interim city administrator.
I believe it would be moving information from council down through the staff, moving information from the community to council, moving information from staff to the community. I believe moving information is the most important job I can do for Cascade Locks.
Okay, thank you. Richard, what role does the council have in the operations of the city?
Well, I would hope that the council's role is public policy as opposed to administration.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Joe, what is your background in financials and city budget as a whole?
Somewhere around 26 years worth, I think. Part of it as an elected official. I was on the city council here in Cascade Locks, also mayor for 2 years. I've been on budget committees, both city budget committees, school budget committees. I'm currently on the Port Garibaldi's budget committee and the Urban Renewal budget committee. Plus, for 15 years, I was the city official responsible for preparing, implementing, et cetera, the budget. I like to think I kind of know what I'm doing.
Thank you. Richard, describe what you think is the most important job you will be doing for this Cascade Locks as an interim city administrator.
You know, I think that all of us are all three of us very qualified for this job. But you need somebody who's going to, affect the transition, be kind of a change agent. And I think that's probably where my strength is not only being able to be a government manager at the city level, but also be able to position the city and to provide the analysis and recommendations for the next city manager to succeed in helping the city.
Okay, thank you. Ross, what is your background in financials and city budget as a whole?
My background, I have a minor in accounting, sat for the CPA exam in 2000. Wasn't successful, however, and never went back to take it again. Worked for the Port of Portland. 12 of the 18 years I worked there, I was the finance manager, managed a $550 million a year budget, 160 million in capital projects. From there, I was the the finance director for the city of Sherwood for about a year and a half, and then was promoted to city manager. As city manager there for 8 years, we received the GFOA budget award for 6 of those years. And then since I retired in 2008, I spent 9 months as the finance director out at the city of Newport, which is very similar to this city in terms of its hotel, airport, and port authorities. And currently I'm working as the interim finance director for the city of Independence.
Thank you.
You bet.
Richard, what's your background in financials and city budget as a whole?
Well, my last job, I managed a bunch of citizens, regulated, it's all in about, $600 million. In Oregon, I've been, working the budget process at the city, county, regional, state level, for 30 years, so, it's something I've been a part of, and I completely understand.
Okay, thank you. Ross, how would you gain trust from the majority of the council for yourself and employees when there's a total distrust from that majority of the councilors?
I believe that opportunity is spending time with each of the counselors, understanding what it is that actually they are all interested in together and helping them build communication amongst the council group in the things that they all share in common. I think that helps to build trust and respect. And as far as staff goes, I think the relationship between staff and council is best served when each knows what the other one's responsible for. So I believe that boundaries to some degree need to be set up so that once again, staff's doing the good work they do and council's setting the policy they need to set. That get to your question?
Yeah. Thank you. Richard, how would you engage counselors who believe that their expertise in areas in which it is obvious they have little knowledge or background of?
Very carefully.
Here,
Yeah, elected officials are just people, and the best thing to do is just talk to it. Just talk to them about what they know best and what I know best, and and try and let them educate me about what they know and let me educate them about what they know. It's not easy. I'll tell you that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Joe, after months of meetings, plannings, and great investment of personal and staff time, a project is presented to council for approval. Much to your surprise, it is refused. Some council members even say that it's the first they have heard of the idea. You are disappointed with the response. What would be your concerns, guidance, or next steps?
Well, as a matter of fact, I did go through one of those in Lafayette shortly before I left. Your administrator, in my opinion, cannot have personal feelings about that stuff. The policy is set by the council. I give you ideas. As far, and to the extent that though we never heard about this before is not true, I'd kind of slide it on. I would simply make sure that everybody understands what the consequences are. If you reject this, these things happen. And then I would also try to pin down, why did we reject it? Emphasis on the we, by the way, because, this team we're talking about here. Is there something that could change that would make this acceptable? And if so, I would try to do that.
Thank you. Ross, how would you engage counselors who believe that they have expertise in areas in which it is obvious that they have little knowledge or background?
I believe that's the public process. I don't believe that any of the counselors come to the table and donate their time and not have a part to play in that public process. If I were to feel that they were lacking in background in an area they needed to not be lacking in background, I'd make sure they get the base information so that they could get up to speed on that. I think, I don't believe I would go into a situation with any counselor that has to be up to speed on any topic and not make sure that they don't have the background. Boy, that sounded really bad, but that's my job, is moving that information to them so they have the background they need to base their situation and base their decisions.
Thank you. Richard, after months of meetings, planning, and great investment of personal and staff time, a project is presented to the council for approval. Much to your surprise, it is refused. Some council members even say it's the first time they heard of the idea. You are disappointed with the response. What would be your concerns and guidance or next steps?
Well, I guess my first concern would be if they felt they hadn't heard about it, understood it, or it was coming, then that would be really my fault. But that would never happen on my watch, to tell you the truth. If somebody told me that they didn't know this was here or coming, then, that would be my fault. So, what I would do is, in terms of how I operate, would be to make sure that everybody knew what was on the table, what was coming, what it meant, what the impact was, what the costs were. And if that didn't happen, then really I shouldn't be city administrator.
Okay, thank you. Joe, how would you gain the trust of the majority of the council for yourself and the employees when there is total distrust from the majority of the councilors?
Well, a lot depends on what the distrustful of. If it's something that has happened in the past, I would try to make it clear that we're not going to do business the same way. But I would try to get under everybody's skin and find out, where they're coming from, what's bothering them. I think as the city administrator, I'm supposed to be the interface between the staff and the council. Like I've told people before, I work for the council, everybody else works for me. I make sure that everything gets done, and if any of my employees screw up, it's my fault. But council is supposed to be me, and I'm supposed to be getting things done. But I would want to try and find out, being the new guy, what's bothering people, and try and figure out ways to fix it.
Thank you. Ross, how do you work with council members who attempt to micromanage details that are the responsibilities of specific department heads? For example, the council requires a department head to make a weekly mileage report on each of the vehicles in the department.
I believe that I would appreciate that counselor taking that to full council. I work for council, don't work for an individual counselor. So I think at that point I would try to make sure that council was aware of those requests and make sure that council was indeed wanting to go forward with that same request.
Okay, thank you. Richard, how do you work with council members who attempt to micromanage details that are the responsibility of a specific department head? For example, the council requires a department head to make weekly mileage reports on each vehicle in a department.
Well, I work with, like the
Richard? 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 I'm gonna call you back. You're really sounding broke up.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Can you start over?
Want me to answer the question again?
Please.
Okay. I would, it's not the job of an individual counselor to make policy. I would work with the individual counselor to give them information about what they wanted to know. At the end of the day, though, it's the, it's the business of the total council to make a decision on a particular policy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Joe, same question.
Well, three things. First of all, what both of those guys said. I would have to emphasize the idea that I work for the council, everybody else works for me. Number two, that I'm responsible to the council collectively, so if this is one person's idea, we probably need to talk about it as a group. And the third question I have is, why do we need to do this? Obviously, this is symptomatic of a perception of a problem. What problem is perceived is you type staff time when you do this. How necessary is it? Why do we need to do this?
Okay, thank you. What else? At this point, do you have a question that you would like to ask of this council right now?
Yes, sir. I guess I'd like to know what the council vision for the city is 25 years from now.
Wow. We just can't get past the end of the month. 25 years from now.
Which is fine.
How about tomorrow?
Okay. All right. That's my question. Thank you very much.
Well, I think, to be truthful, the whole council, I'm speaking for all of them, but I think the whole council would like to have a city administrator on board to help us carry on with the city business and try to do it in a professional manner. So, with that being said,
I mean, I guess is what I was really trying to get at. It wasn't supposed to be a smart aleck kind of a question. It was really about, other cities I've gone to, the city of Newport, for instance, their vision is they have 3 different core areas to that city that are served well, and that each of those areas gets certain amounts. I mean, everybody shares that vision on council. Sherwood has its visions. Other places I've worked all know what they're going to be in 25 years. I just was curious if you guys had that wisdom or that shared thought, and that was my question.
I think part of the issue, at least with me, I can say, is that this is all extremely new. There's several new council members on the council. That's something that we need to do with the new city administrator. I think that's a vital concern for all of us.
Yeah, I think the whole city, we've lost our high school. We don't have enough jobs in our town, and we're trying to develop whatever good projects or industries that we can possibly produce to create jobs, to create good blue-collar jobs. And I think everybody in this town knows we know that. And I think most everybody in town is looking in that direction now. And we need help.
Do you want us all to make a statement? Do you want us all to make a statement?
If you want, you can make a statement, because I can't really speak for everybody. I'm generally, but yeah.
Well, is that what you're asking for? Is everyone makes their own statement?
No, I just, you've already told me a lot just by your statements to this point. So, but please go right ahead.
I think what I'd like to see is just a well-rounded seniors, families, singles, something where we can become a more effective communicative community and just be able to actually have a place where we can share our thoughts and ideas with each other without it being always in the political realm of things.
Well, I've always felt, since I've moved here, Cascade Locks is really at its best when we embrace our families and we embrace each other as a family. It's a small enough community where that's important. And people are welcomed in, neighbors are friendly. We embrace the new, we embrace the old, and we plan effectively for both.
25 years from now, I've been here all my life, and it's an up and down for Cascade Locks. Cascade Locks has pretty much followed a regional construction boom or bust. So if there's some kind of federal project or state project going on around us, then we get people into the town, and then when that project's over, the people move out of the town. Most of them, not a certain amount of people come to the town, like the town, and stay with it even after the projects. But we're in a unique area here, and it seems historically every time we attempt to make a move, somebody comes in is interested in us. So is all of our neighbors are all interested in what's going on in Cascade Locks too. So we get a lot of pressure as to what we can and what we can't do in our own community. So that's a difficult thing for us. But our town does keep plugging away at it. So you know, for me, in here right now, I have. I personally have financial concerns of where we're at, and I don't know whether they're well-founded or not, but that's some of my issues, how how we stand financially in order to move ahead in the next 25 years.
25 years from now, I would like to see Cascade Locks be a known place. You know, I talk to a lot of people in my business, and they say Cascade Locks. How do you spell that? And what is it? Really, I'm dead serious. You know, Hood River's gotten to be a internationally known area based on its natural resources. We have the same natural resources here. I would really like to see us become, we've talked of Leavenworth or different areas that have an attraction in and of themselves. And being that we're in a tourist area and in a national scenic area, I think the tourism trade is kind of a natural direction for us. Not that that's the end all be all, but I really would like to see us become a well-known place in the gorge.
You had 3 really good ideas today, listening.
I'm behind the go-kart right now.
I like the garden.
I like the water slide too. That was awesome.
Highest in the world.
So, I just love my city, so I'm going to concur with the fact that, and we are pretty positive with our, we are very positive with our families and our, moving forward that way. So continue to maintain the integrity of our city, but still move forward with the attributes that we have, with the partners we have. You know, we've got Port, Orange Springs, we have some new things that are interjected, and just keep interjecting to do that. And I would also like for Cascade Locks to be a little bit more known, because it's this beautiful little gem that people just...
Got to be careful what you wish for sometimes.
I know, it is our little gem, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Richard, are you still there?
Sure.
Do you have any questions of the council?
Well, I don't have any questions, but, just a couple things to say, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, what does the council need or want for the next 3 months, and that is somebody who's going to help transition you to a better government, a kind of a change agent, and that's what I can do, that's what I've done for a living. What you want, I think, is a better economy in terms of jobs and community.
Okay, thanks, Richard.
Sure.
Joe, do you have a question of the council?
I don't think I do at this point. The only question I had is why you didn't ask me all the questions you asked everybody else. No, I think, I'll give you a statement instead. I think that I probably can do some of the stuff that sounds like you need. It sounds like you need to be goal setting. I have done that. It would probably be helpful. I quote Ronald Reagan a lot. He said, first you gotta show them the city on the hill, then you can decide how to get there. Similarly, I don't know much about the financial concerns, but I sure can find out, and I can tell you what I think for what it's worth. Thirdly, we can get into the business of communicating, but I think primary job you need an interim city administrator to do is to find your permanent one. And I have had some success in doing that. That's about it, unless you've got more questions for me.
Don't have any more questions, but thank you. So with that being said, next on the agenda, and actually before we leave this, I want to tell you that at the end of the meeting tonight, we will go into executive session and the council will discuss all the candidates. And we will probably get back and notify the candidates tomorrow as to what the council decides. Kevin?
Before we go on to a new item, can we take a break? Give
Yeah.
you guys a chance to.
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. Richard?
What?
We're going to take a break.
You're gonna let him
So I'll just let you go for now, all right?
Okay, well, I appreciate you calling me, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Is that for us as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
suggestions for a possible date?
Are we gonna, wait and see when the new interim city administrator can start? Is that gonna be part of it? And also,
Well, I would assume that we'd be able to get the new interim to start within the next, after a week.
okay. Also, are we gonna have the, counselor orientation? Or are we gonna do that at the same time, or?
My normal understanding is that that's all done at the same time, isn't it, Kathy?
No, it's
Oh,
two
it's
different
not?
meetings.
Two separate things.
Two separate? Oh, okay.
Because
So
the orientation goes through all the department heads, come in and explain what their departments do and take them on tours if they so choose,
Well,
is that?
the tours are later usually, but
Okay.
basically council orientation is to, I mean, normally they have someone come in that kind of works on team building skills, that sort of thing, and then the last half of the day is basically telling about each of the departments. Goal setting is when the council gets together and, well, there has been a team building exercise a little bit in the beginning, and then council works on what they want their goals for the next year, and usually review goals in years past. And usually the city administrator kind of leads that, so
Okay.
both of those actually.
So then it sounds like we need to establish the orientation date first.
And it's, I mean, it's possible, I think we could talk to the interim if that's something that he could work in together as orientation and that. He may want to do it separately.
Okay.
Like a really long day.
Usually just a full day.
Like a Saturday, is that normally when you do it? So do we want to pick a Saturday right now? And try to shoot for that day and see if it works?
That's all the 14th and 28th.
In March, or
Yeah, we'd have to do it March. Today's the last day of February now.
not April, though?
No, because April we start, when do we start budget?
Tends to the first part of April.
First part of April.
Depends on how fast I get the budget from city, or from the department. And
So
how fast we can do it ourselves.
how does March 12th sound then? Saturday, March 12th?
That's 2 weeks away. I'm just saying the interim might need some time to prepare, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only 2 weeks depending on when that person starts and kind of gets an idea of things. It's your call, but I'm just saying it might be
A little quick,
too early for that person.
19th then?
19?
19th? Yeah.
The question for Mary Ann, how much does the council goal-setting session impact your budget? Because I know the budget message in the past has reflected council goals.
And normally, we try to build our budget around the goals because the revenue, we try to allot so much revenue for your goals that you have done. So the council goals does affect how we budget.
Sooner the better.
Well, but the 19th, I think maybe we should just try and do the orientation and the goal setting, do the orientation in the morning and the goal setting in the afternoon, because I think we'll have discussions with all the department heads. They'll come in and they can share at that time what some of their concerns and their needs are for the goals for that year, and then that afternoon, maybe we can, and then if we can't get it all done, maybe pick another night where we can
Get together.
to finalize the goals or something. I just feel like we're crunched for time.
19th is great for me.
19th is good for Lance? Okay.
It's good for
Eva,
you.
how's 19th for you?
I normally work Saturdays, but I'll put in for the 19th, I'll see, I don't know. But we can shoot for it. And
All right.
let you know if it's gonna be
Then-
Well, I'd be fine with Sunday.
Sundays are fine. But
What's the rest of the council think?
I can't do anything till
I'm good on the
Sunday.
19th.
Kevin?
Should we try it then?
Yeah, flexible either way.
I'm flexible too, but the 19th is okay.
Yeah, I'm good on the 19th. Let's set it up for the 19th. and we'll try to get it all done in a day, and if not, we'll
As much as you can.
make another time that we can finish up. That way we can have it done and before it comes to budget time. Okay.
It's 9 a.m. good start.
9 a.m.? Where do we?
I'm gonna need a latte.
You're gonna need a latte?
Yes, I'm gonna work till midnight, so a latte will be in order.
Okay.
One latte with sugar? Where do we usually have it here?
Yeah.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, goal setting, we usually, last year, I think we had it at Best Western.
Yeah, but they don't have their conference room is going bye-bye, from what I heard, so.
It depends on what council wants to do. They can choose to have it somewhere else.
I can bring my barbecue and we can go down and catch some fish. Barbecue fish.
Okay, you catch them.
Yeah, okay.
Out of the little pond.
Out of the little pond, okay.
Eat trout.
Trout, fresh trout. All right, so
Okay.
that's what we'll do for that for right now.
Okay.
So, staff notes, Mayor and council comments? I don't have any comments that I want to talk about. Does any of the councilors have a comment that they'd like to talk about? Lance?
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to say that I was really pleased to be invited to the Fire and EMS banquet a couple weeks ago. First time I've gone to that, and just really a great event. It was just really neat to see, here's a department in the city run by, one paid staff, but you've got 20 people there, or thereabouts, all excited and enthused about being in that department, volunteers. And it was just great to see how tight-knit that group of people are, and how much they respect the leader, the chief, and also we got a chance to review some of the things that had happened over the course of the year within the department. Just some really great stuff going on, and one of the slogans they had was, "We're the guardians of Cascade Locks." And when you see the training they go through and the things that they respond to, it's really true. So I was really pleased to see that. I also just recently received a letter that was a response. It looks like it's a response from the fire chief to the mayor with some concerns about being harassed. It's hard for me to understand all the situations that went into this, but it did raise some concerns for me. It appears to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it appears to me as if there was a list of directives given to the fire chief, and he's confused by some of them, doesn't know how he's supposed to proceed on some of them, and maybe he was even offended by some of them. And the letter is stipulating that there's, that he feels like he's being harassed. And in reading through that, I guess I felt like, well, that would be one interpretation. That would be one way to interpret it. And the only other interpretation I could come up with is that these 8 directives that have been given to the fire chief are an attempt to change a policy of how we run the department. So either one of those things concerns me. And because the city may be liable now for a harassment charge, I'm just going to ask that we rescind those 8 directives and replace them with one of them which says, please remember that we're trying to get the budget to balance out and hopefully have a positive cash balance. Because to me, that's really the message. The best thing we can do for this department is to remember that we're trying to get the budget to balance out and have a positive cash balance as we've done in each of the last 6 years. So rather than, you know, get into a situation where we have to investigate a harassment charge, things like that, I'm just going to ask that those 8 directives be rescinded, so that fire chief no longer feels he's being harassed, but we do get the message across that we're trying to balance the budget. A couple things in here I do believe are policy initiatives. We did vote on a specific policy where we told the fire chief he could have 4 hours of overtime. That's been voted on by the council, and it appears that in one of these items, that policy has been changed by administrative fiat, which I do believe is inappropriate. It needs to come through council decision. And there's several other items that should be part of a council decision, or at least a council discussion, rather than unilaterally making changes to our policy. So I'm just going to ask whether that's what the council would like, or, I mean, if it's just me, that's fine. I'm just going to put it out there that here's a way to avoid this charge of harassment, is let's rescind these 8 main points and just replace them with, hey, we're trying to get this budget balanced. Let's do everything we can to get it balanced. Could we ask for a consensus on that, please?
No. Lance, first of all, you should give me the courtesy to ask what the situation was, okay? Which you haven't, which is fine. That's your prerogative. You're entitled to do that, okay? There is no harassment. I've already talked to legal counsel. Everything is fine, okay? So hopefully that resolves all your concerns.
Okay, it doesn't, but I just want to say that I believe that one way to avoid a harassment charge, which does have to be investigated, can't just be dismissed as at the advice of an attorney. It does have to be investigated if an investigation has been requested. One way to avoid that would be to rescind these directives, which are policy-based, not administrative-based. So I feel like when you're dealing with policy, it's important to talk to the council and get the council to weigh in. When you're dealing with administrative issues, then it's appropriate to make those changes administratively. So I just wanted to share that. And I do believe it's important that rather than being discussed behind the scenes, that this is discussed in public, because it represents a policy change. So that's why it's being discussed in a public meeting rather than behind closed doors.
There is no policy change, Lance.
Well, I just listed
if you read the end of his letter is quite clear, okay? So maybe you need to go back and read the end of his letter, because it was strictly about communication, okay?
Well, I did read it. I also read the beginning where he's asked for a harassment investigation to be initiated. That doesn't just go away with communication. There's been that request, and we're obligated to do that.
So you're stating that the policy change has been for the overtime? Is that what you're stating?
Well, there's one. There's another one for budget. That the fire chief is to make a weekly budget, whereas our policy in general has been a yearly budget. So to me, that's a different policy. It says something about do not leave the city of Cascade Locks at any time. I'm not sure how what the ramification is of that in terms of policy. And then there's also one for recording the mileage of each vehicle in gallons of fuel and being submitted on a weekly basis, which, I don't know, I mean, it seems like it's changing the policy of the department. Maybe that is administrative, but it just...
A logbook of when they fill up and what the mileage is when they fill up a vehicle. I think that's an administrative issue.
Okay, I see that, but it's just, but when it's done on a weekly basis, that just hasn't been past practice. So I'm just, I mean, and when you read the letter, right, it says something about.
It's a request.
Right, it just says something. The letter saying, well, part of being able to do that particular directive is to leave the city, when there's another directive not to leave the city. So,
No.
so that, yeah, it's in the letter. That's explained in the letter.
Do they don't have phones in Dodson Warrendale?
Record the mileage of each vehicle in gallons of fuel. It doesn't say call up and say what's the mileage.
So we have to get
So-
line by line
Well, I
items specific, I mean, you can't collect it over the phone?
But when I read the letter, what it says is he's not certain as to how he's supposed to do that.
So we
So,
have to
I mean-
line by line give him word specific, in order to get the mileage for the Dawson warranty, you have, please call so-and-so and get the mileage. And for the rest of the vehicles, please walk out into the garage and open the door and write down the mileage and shut the door and record it down and send it in an email to me, turn on your computer. I mean, how redundant do you really want to get?
Well, it isn't a directive to the people in Warrendale to check the mileage. That's all I'm saying. It's a directive to the person who's required to stay in Cascade Locks. So.
I'd like to address the overtime issue. Correct me if I'm wrong, we budgeted $10,000 for overtime, and we are at that threshold, within very close, we're pretty close to it.
A little over 7,000.
Okay, last time I saw it was 8,000 and 9,000 with the taxes and insurance and all that.
You have several line items. Your wage is 10,000, is a, let me think, I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
You said.
Okay. But we're close. I mean, we're fairly close.
And I guess where I'm coming down on that is, the reason why we budgeted that was just to give ourselves the ability to generate revenue for the department. And it's important that we have that flexibility so that we can generate the revenue. And that's a policy that the city council has set. And I feel like it's been changed with this directive.
You have a budget line item for extra labor of $10,000. And as of January 31st, he has unexpended balance of $1,700.
January.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Kevin.
On the overtime thing, I believe the employee handbook says that all overtime has to be approved by your supervisor. We have given the mayor the authority of the city administrator. He is a supervisor. I believe that is within his authority. Secondly, I'm not sure how far along this path we really want to go, where we're going to start discussing employee relations in an open council meeting and discussing correspondence between the city administrator and an employee. I think a harassment suit may be the least of our worries if we go too far down this path.
Well, I just wanted to raise it as a concern, as part of my councilor comments, that I feel like we've strayed away from administrative and into policy decisions that are not being handled in public, in a public meeting. The other comment that I had tonight was, I think it's important that people are aware there is a movement in town to essentially create a budget crisis for the city where there is not necessarily a budget crisis. We do have a balanced budget. There are a few areas of concern, but there is no budget crisis. And there has been a concerted effort to create a budget crisis where none exists. I think it's important that the community pay close attention to the budget process over this year so that they can see we do have an essentially balanced budget.
Whose turn?
Wow, it's your turn. I think Lance is done.
I'm done, yes, thank you.
There's been a lot of talk about the budget concern. If everyone will remember, every year for at least 3 years, our auditor has said we're heading down a very tough road. Everything is matching if we don't talk about our debt. To my knowledge, we owe at least $448,000, and no money has been appropriated to pay this debt. That's one of my concerns. It's still there. To my knowledge, we have no plan to repay the debt or the interest. To me, at least $448,000 is a lot of money. I think we should be concerned. If you're not, good luck.
Are you talking to me directly?
To anyone that wants to listen, I'm just making a
Because
statement.
you looked at me when you said that.
Well, you said we
I
have
was just
no
trying to
debt.
clarify
Yeah.
if I was supposed to respond to that, or
If you'd
just
like.
a general statement.
It's up to you.
Tiffany?
The mayor and I went to an action team meeting, and for a small town, I want to say that we really have a lot of things that are going on in this area. There are a lot of good things that are coming down the road, where a lot of different people have worked on different things. I'll let them be the announcers of the various things that they've done, but I just want to say that they're behind the scenes there for a small town that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. We really are. There's a lot of things going on. And I also want to say, there's been a lot of flack for, I appreciate that the kids were able to come in tonight and read their essays, because I wasn't able to go to that meeting because I just got the warning, not the warning, but the notice that it was going to be happening an hour before it happened. So it was good that they could come in and share those articles with everybody in the public. And I also want to say that, this has really been a lot of work behind the scenes that are going on, and there's a lot of dust being thrown up in the air, and I just would ask that people would be patient, give us time to work through these issues and get things going on a track to resolve the issues that are at hand.
All right, with that being said, I would like to say one thing. We've started as the council, new councilors, existing councilors, myself being the new mayor. This has been an extreme situation of restructuring the whole administration of Cascade Locks. We've been trying very hard and very diligently to do a good job. Tonight, we're going to go to executive session. We're going to discuss the hiring of an interim city administrator. And with that, we hope that we will be able to start getting things in line and working the way it's supposed to be. We're all new at this. We're all trying to do a good job. And basically, that's all I can say. So, thank you. Eva?
I want to say a couple things. I want to start here. First off, I guess I'll go with this. I do have concerns over the letter. I know I'll chat with you, Lance. I have a little bit of added stuff that I've talked with the mayor. So there's been some conversation there. So there's part of me that feels that way. There's part of me that understands some things that are happening. So I'm really happy about the interim super administrator. We're moving forward. I want us to focus on moving forward and doing it because we need solutions. So I like that. As far as the other thing, I loved the presentations of the kids. Love that. And I also want to concur with Rob about the people that were out on the freeway and stuff on Thursday night. I was working the desk on Thursday night when a holler came across the radio. There was a semi headed right towards our people. And I'm telling you, the dispatch center went to silence. And it was horrific for that, just that split second, because they don't yell like that. And so when they did that, that was rude. So I so much put my arms around our people, and so I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Any other council have anything to say?
I'll agree with that too. It's the busy times out here, or the weather conditions out here that taxes the emergency services, well, taxes all services of the city, but the city has always, has historically stepped up to it in all departments. I was out of water a little bit for a short time here during that break, but the water department and the power department sent people over there to expedite including the mayor, will keep an eye on and expedite the repair of actually pretty major water line in the downtown areas. And the guys did a great job in tough conditions. But I've been here, like I said, all my life, and that's pretty much all Cascade Locks has always done. All departments and all citizens have done a great job forever, stepping up to the plate and taking care of business. So continue to appreciate that, and appreciate being in a community with people like that.
Thanks, Tom. Anybody else? No? Okay, with that, we'll go on to staff notes. Don't have any? Okay. With the next item on the agenda is televised workshop session. With the time being almost 9 o'clock, I think I'm going to table the televised workshop session so that we can go on into executive session so that we can discuss the hiring of the interim city administrator.
So do we need a motion, Kathy, to go into executive?
You need to probably, are you coming back into regular session afterwards, and you would just need to recess?
Probably.
Regular,
Well,
and then state ORS, you're going into executive only.
We probably want to let people know who we hired.
Pardon me?
Do we want to let people know who we hired?
That'd be a good idea.
Oh,
Well, usually you wait until they've accepted before you announce
Yeah,
you've hired.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so,
Yes, Kevin?
The mayor's appointment and then council's consensus,
okay.
would that have to be done
In
in
executive
the
session?
public session, or is that something that can happen?
You'd have to do it in public, because you can't make a decision in
Executive session.
Consent is, or our consent
There
on
can be a
his,
consensus.
because it's his, I mean, we're just either agreeing or just, I'm just, for the camera operator or for whatever, I really don't care either way, but for her to have to sit and wait, it doesn't really seem like an appropriate use of time, but
Whatever you guys feel comfortable with, if you want to have a consensus on whatever, or if you're making a decision that needs to be in public.
is our approving his choice an action, or is it just a
I think if
consensus?
he appoints and you're approving,
It's
I
an
would
action.
say that's
Okay.
an action and
Okay.
it should be in public.
Okay, so then
Let's come back.
we'll have to come back to regular session after executive session. So at this time, we will go into executive session under ordinance 1
ORS.
ORS 192.6602A.
And that's all you need, you don't need to say that.
Don't need a second, okay. So, with that, we'll go into executive session. So everyone could leave the room. Thank you for coming.
But we are coming back. Is that what
We have to come back.
Yeah.
Have a special meeting on Wednesday at 7 o'clock here at council chambers to announce who is to be appointed and hired as the new interim city administrator.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's been a motion, it's been moved to adjourn, Tiffany Pruitt, and seconded by Don Haight. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
All right.